Hello, my name is Tamara Toy, and I am reporting on the weeks of observations that we took last week. And this is my report for Unit 10 for ATM 101. My observation site is located at Airport Way and Cal Street in Fairbanks, Alaska. The observations were taken between March 21st and March 26th at between 2:15 and 3:15 p.m. in the afternoon. My National Weather Service site is at Fairbanks International Airport. And just in case anybody is unaware of where Fairbanks, Alaska is, a little refresher. This is my last observation sheets showing my max and min temperatures for the week of observations. And here's my temperature plot. I would say my temperatures were pretty consistent with the National Weather Service. There's a couple days it's a little out of range. By a couple degrees. I figure that because of the location. I have to have my observation site, but it's only like a degree or two, so it's consistent. On March 22nd, I had a temperature at the time of observation on the left probe of 11 degrees and on the right probe of 11.4. That day, I had a max of 15.8 and on the left probe 16.4 on the right, and a minimum low, excuse me, of minus 18.4 and minus 17.4. The pressure that day was 1,013 millibars. The average temperature was the negative 1.3 on the left and negative 0.5 on the right. I did have some clouds that day. I would say that it was about half coverage of the sky, and they looked to be cirrocumulus clouds. I had a little bit of wind coming from out of the south. I would say about 190 at a Beaufort scale of 1. The trees weren't moving. There wasn't anything blowing around, but I could feel the air in my face. And I had a little bit of a smoke stack I could see, give me a little indication it wasn't just local. On the 23rd, I had at time of observation, I had a max temperature, I had a temperature of 16.1 on the left and 15.5 on the right. For that day, I had a max temperature of 16.8 on the left bleed, 16.5 on the right, and a minimum temperature of minus 10.5 on the left and minus 11 on the right. The pressure that day was 1,015 millibars. I had some clouds, about a quarter of the sky, I would say, were probably a quarter or less. Alto stratus, it's really hard to see. They were off like a cloud bank on the horizon, so it's kind of hard for me to give my opinion what they are, but I would say that's probably what they were. The average temperature for that day was 3.15 degrees on the left, 2.75 on the right. And I had wind that day out of the south, I would say 190 to 200 from the direction. It was kind of hard to tell. And again, it was a Beaufort scale of 1. Again, I could feel on my face there wasn't anything, leaves or anything moving. On the 24th, I observed a temperature of 16.7 on the left, 15.8 on the right. I had, for that day, a maximum temperature of 20.1 on the left and 20.1 on the right as well, and a minimum temperature of minus 19.6 on the left and minus 18.6 on the right, which gave a average temperature for the day of 0.25 degrees on the left and 0.75 degrees on the right. I had calm winds and no clouds, and the pressure was 1,016 millibars. On the 25th, I observed a temperature of 21.3 on the left and 20.1 on the right, with a maximum temperature that day of 24 degrees on the left, 23.6 on the right, and a minimum of minus 12.8 on the left and minus 12.8 on the right. That day, winds were calm, and there were no clouds. Pressure was 1,010 millibars. On the 26th, last day, I observed a temperature of 21.2 on the left and 22.0 on the right, and had, for maximum temperatures for the day, were given the time it was warm as it had been, 21.2 for the left, 22.0 on the right, with the minimum temperature of minus 9.2 on the left and minus 0.2 on the right. That day was calm with no clouds to be seen, and a barometric pressure of 1,009 millibars. When it comes to the barometric pressure, my observations were pretty consistent with the National Weather Service. The decrease in pressure also reflects on the warming trend we had. The high pressure was weakening, and we started having lower pressure and warmer temperatures. So here we go for March 22nd, first day of my observations. It's pretty consistent with the cloud cover right here and a high pressure center over here with low pressure out in the Gulf. So the winds should have been coming out of more northerly direction, but I also live in an apartment, so it's kind of hard to tell. Got a couple low pressure troughs running this way, and the stationary front down here, included to low front down here. The very indicative of light winds with the way the isobars are a little farther apart. Here's a picture of the cirrocumulus clouds that I took that day. On the 23rd, I would say this is pretty, I think Fairbanks should be about right there, of the clouds. Like I said, you can see them on the horizon, they weren't overhead. We have the stationary front down here with the winds. Again, the reason for calm winds, the isobars are farther apart. And we still have the high sitting down here off the coast, and the low is sitting down in the Gulf. There's some of the pictures of the clouds that I took. There you can see the bank of clouds off to the southwest. On Friday, the 24th, at the time of my observation, didn't have any clouds, but there were some earlier in the day and later in the day. The high pressure moved up to north of Fairbanks, and as you can see, the isobars are much further apart. So again, that would say for the calm winds and the no clouds that I had at the time of observation. Saturday, we still have the high pressure sitting up here, and this is very indicative of my observations. The light wind, the pressure gradient, I would guess from between the high and low. Calm winds, clear skies, good flying weather. And my last day of observation, the pressure dropped to 1,009, as you can see, with the high pressure center having moved up farther north. The clouds we see here would be very indicative of the high pressure moving away or weakening. Again, at the time of my observation, I had beautiful blue skies, and we had the usual morning clouds. So I'm going to say that this is probably an image from earlier or later in the day than when I took my observation. And with the map and then GOES images for the 23rd, I would say when it comes to the visible, it's very accurate for what I witnessed because it looks like some clouds but very broken. Infrared the same way. So I would say both of these are very extremely accurate. And the water vapor, I would say, would be relatively accurate as well because we were seeing clouds that day. When it comes to the techniques of forecasting as far as persistence goes, I would say that it is weak, as I had a change in over 5 degrees between the 3 days. We had a minimal but decent amount of warming trend, at least enough to show a trend. So persistence would not be an accurate manner for this last week to forecast. When it comes to climatology, I would say it's inaccurate because the average, if you look at the climatology average versus the average for that day, it's like 13 degrees difference for Thursday and Friday or more. So I would say that's very inaccurate. We were much cooler than normal for this time of year. I think mostly due to the fact we had the high pressure, that Siberian high we get, and it just didn't weaken. So we were stuck with cold weather instead of melting weather. So this will conclude my Unit 10 report. Thank you, and everybody have a great day.